Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our next session during Automation Days Asia 2023. In our next hour, we're going to go to one of my favorite parts of the conference, which is always the panel discussion, in which we pick the minds of some of the leading experts in automation and discuss some of the pressing challenges that we're facing today in the world of automation and what could be potential solutions. I highly encourage you to participate. So we will be monitoring the questions and the chat during this session. So if you have any questions for any of our speakers, then please feel free to put that into the question or into the chat box. And then I will incorporate those questions into our panel discussion as we will go along. Before we get started with the question, please note that as I introduced during the opening ceremony, there are a couple of goodies and giveaways to be given out during the conference. And the way that we do this is by asking a number of poll questions, and the people that have most questions correct will be put into the lucky draw for the different prizes. So we're giving away a couple of books around service automation. We're giving away free e-learning courses with certification. So in order to do that, let me first launch the quick poll for right now. And the question for this second part is, what is the most commonly automated task? So give me a moment to start the poll. You should see it in your screens right now. Is that A, document creation and organization, lead management, inventory management, or data entry? Please take a quick moment, 10 seconds to answer that. Good, I see quite some differences of opinion. Good, I see most votes are in. I'll give you 5 more seconds. Good, and I'm going to close the poll right now. Good, and it should be on the screen right now. So 25% say it's document creation, 4% only lead management, 11% inventory management, and the majority says data entry, which is indeed the correct answer. Data entry is the most commonly automated task. So thanks everyone for participating in this second poll. The third and final poll today will be during the closing keynote this afternoon. Good, then let's move towards the main event. I am super excited that again this year we have managed to find a panel of thought leaders, and I am super excited to welcome today Michael Tan, who is a senior lecturer at Nanyang Technological University, Kyung Moon, who is the director of the IT Hub at APAC and the head of IT at Asia at the Adecco Group, and Syed Pasha, who's a global head of delivery of cobots solutions. For those of you who just tuned in, my name is Jan-Willem Middelburg. I'm the managing director at Cybient and the author of the Service Automation Framework, and I have the big pleasure of hosting this panel today. So as for introductions, I would like to very quickly go around the room and learn a little bit around who you are, your work experience, and how you became involved in the world of automation. And I'd like to start with Michael from Nanyang Technological University. Michael, welcome to our panel today.
Thank you, Jen. I'm a senior lecturer with the Nanyang Technological University, short form for NTU. I started off teaching UiPath in 2019. I was interested because it's up and coming technology. Of course, then it wasn't as mature as it now. And currently, I am looking after courses, automation courses at a postgraduate level as well as a corporate level. I also write research papers and teaching cases in the automation area, and I have published a teaching case on scaling automation, and my next research paper is on RPA leadership, right? So anyone who is in the position of RPA leaders, even in the area of automation. I'd like to have your views on what an RPA leader should be doing, right? So do approach me. I think my just search my name on LinkedIn and should be able to find my profile. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Very good. It's an interesting topic, and I'm quite sure that during the panel today, we're going to talk a little bit around RPA leadership and look at what the implications are for organizations. Thanks, Michael. It's a real pleasure to have you with us here today. Thanks for making the time to join Automation Days Asia. I think for the first time, right, this year?
Yes, this is my first time.
Very good. Thanks.
Me.
Then I would like to switch to Kyung Moon, better known as KM. So welcome to Automation Days Asia as well. Can you share a little bit with your audience your background?
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Jan, for the invite. Happy to join this panel discussion. So, currently I'm actually attached to the ADA23 group, which is a people solutions company, and that's how I get connected to Jan, really, right, to engage in some of the RPA development work and all that. So I've been into this RPA journey really in a couple of the previous organizations that I've been in. A lot of time it's all starts off with like driving adoptions, right, and getting the organizations to warm up to this idea of automations and driving a little bit of the change management, organizational change management process as well in adopting automation and all that, and at a later stage where it really goes into sort of like a maturity model where it becomes part of the norm of an organizations and all that, right? So that's also similarly the journey that I'm embarking at within the ADA23 group at the moment as well. Yeah.
Very interesting. So look forward to discussing that, especially because you're very much involved in actual use cases. And that gives us, I think, a very unique perspective on the discussion today, especially at such a large company as ADA23. Good. And then my final guest is nobody else than Syed Pasha, who's the Global Head of Delivery at cobots Solutions. Welcome, Syed, as well.
Hey, thanks, Jan, and we're very lucky to be here. And I'm super excited to share the views or learn from the people here. So quick introduction, I'm Syed Pasha, working as Global Head of Delivery for cobots Solutions, with 11 years of total experience and 6 years into RPA. I've got a chance to represent one of the major tool UiPath as one of their MVP for the last 4 years. And on the other part, I'm a trainer. I train people on UiPath. I'm a person who love to build networks. So even before this call, I got a chance to talk to Michael Tan about, embarking some journey together for Singapore area. And yes, this exciting platform. We would like to use this as much as possible and connect with you all to share and learn more views and more use cases that comes across where we have humans and the robots together. Thanks again.
Thanks so much for the introduction. And I think, and that was why I was very happy to compose this panel today, is we have somebody more from the academic domain, somebody more from an end user organization, and somebody more from a supplier perspective. So I think we have all the voices and knowledge necessary to really set up an interesting panel. Good. So I'd like to dive right into it. And the first thing that I would like to note is that for today, I picked a topic which is called human-robot collaboration, because there's a lot of discussion around humans versus the robots. So I thought it would be good today to focus a little bit on the different perspective, and that is to focus more on the collaboration with new technology. So I'd like to start with my first question is, how will we see the incorporation of more collaborative robots, which typically are known as cobots, into enterprise automation systems? And maybe it's good to start with KM, since you are from an end user organization. Might be good to pick your brain first around how do you see the collaboration between robots and end users or people who need to use them happening in your organization, and what are some of the benefits and challenges that you're seeing?
Sure, thank you. And I think one of the always common early challenges in driving RPA adoption in a lot of the organizations I've been into is really in terms of like the change management part, right? Especially on the people side, where like will this automation take over my jobs, right? Or my identity in an organizations and things like that. So that's one of the key challenges or initial challenges that typically I've experienced in a couple of organizations I've been into, right? So as we go into the journey of driving adoption and all that, and that is where that you enable from a knowledge standpoint, from a skill set standpoint, for some of these users or key users and all that to really realize that, automation or whatever bots that we are doing is not about replacing what they do or the value that they contribute to the organization, but it's really into, assist them in a little bit of like the repetitive and mundane tasks, and that helps to alleviate their roles to perform higher value, more value add tasks or activities for the organizations, right? I think to a certain extent that's probably where I see collaborative robots will comes into play, as in like you could have like a end-to-end business process, right, through optimization and whatnot, that there will be multi-tier and multi-layer that to a certain extent, it will involve collaborations between a human and also the bots that we create, right? So put it into like a grand scheme of things, right? I think we have evolved into the technology adoption of RPA to a situation where really, there could be certain part that really good ROI in principle and all that to automate. And at the same time, right, that is also where collaborating with a human to continue part of this end-to-end business process automation that I mentioned will really brings value.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that change management aspect that you're mentioning is probably the hardest part, or at least from what I've seen, is get it between people's ears that this is not a frightening technology. Let's move to Michael for a second, because you have been teaching a lot of, I would say, young minds, but also some of the corporations around what RPA is, what it can do, and also, how it should be used. Do you see that collaboration in the same way, or in the establishment of that?
I think so. Those people who came for classes, they are typically people who are very excited about the technology. They are the drivers of the automation, but they may not be like what KM said. They may not be the one who are going to be impacted.
Yeah.
So
who is going to be mostly impacted in your opinion?
Yeah. So they are the one who provides the solution and provide the bots, right? And I do explain, I do provide a metaphor in my class. Yeah. You need to see this robot as a new employee who is taking a very low salary and is doing jobs 24/7, and then this employee never ever complains. Yeah. So we need to take things from that perspective and redesign how our mindset and our approach towards work.
Yeah.
So depending on their function, for some whose job is going to be taken over by the robot, I told them that you have to embrace this reality and not resist, and it's going to come, no matter where you go, right? So, and then a lot of headache, a lot of challenges actually go to the HR, in terms of redesigning the jobs and rescaling the people.
Very interesting. I really like what the part that you're saying was, so this is gonna come, so you better embrace it. Let's move to Syed for a quick second. Do you think, in terms of that human-robot collaboration, will every employee have a robot running on their machine in the next few years that can assist them?
Yes, yeah. I'll give you a different perspective to it. When my early introduction to RPA was way back in 2016, 17, someone from my higher management approached me saying, "Hey, look, we're bringing a new technology called robotic process automation, and you know what? It will do things faster." So we trying to automate something for one of the leading laptop manufacturer, Lenovo. Lenovo was my first time when I got hands-on with something. So that was my first introduction. And when I got the demo, I was excited. I was like, the entire day I got the lab sitting down and doing automating small tasks, 3 steps, 4 steps, and watching them repeatedly happening much faster. Now, the same introduction happened to different team of the same organization. It was told that RPA is something which will cut down the jobs. It will take away the jobs. It will, just like you said, the identity problem or the existence problem. So what is more important? The biggest gift as humans we have is the communication. The challenge in human robot collaboration is, like the technology people, like the people who are in the panel, would know it, adopt it, and love it. But when it goes, the enabler of an automation is mostly the business people. So I've got a chance to automate or get into calls around for 150 to 160 processes in my entire career. Whenever I see a business user and SME giving us a walkthrough, they have something in their mind about, if you do it, what do I do tomorrow? If this task is done by the bot, what is my position in the company? Now, for some other companies where I've seen some awesome leaders like Carsten, who leads one of the major pharma company in Denmark. So what he does, he took the entire business team and had given him the entire idea about what RPA is, how it could help them to make things faster. He has actually incubated the idea of it is not your competitor, but it is your assistant. So the awareness to the business will definitely unlock the potential of automation much to the level what we witnessing now. Whenever I go talk to an SME, there is a reluctant even in accepting my invites. They say, how about we schedule this meeting next week? How about we take only these 10 steps for the automation? Keep the seventh, eighth step to me because it needs some involvement of a human. So one quick bait for or one quick win for most of the companies is ensure the awareness of automation is there. Don't
so you're bringing me actually to a very interesting point, and also something that I thought would be a very good topic for this panel discussion today, is basically completely following your line of thought. The request that I received most from a lot of larger organizations in the APAC region is, how do we enable those business users? So indeed, not the technology guys, but more the people who are in marketing and sales and other kind of areas. And the common theme and term that I see arising out of that discussion is, can you basically set up what is typically referred to as kind of the citizen developer programs, which means low code, easy to understand kind of automation solutions in order to make that impact of automation, not just within the IT domain, but especially in the larger user space. So maybe to follow up on that discussion a bit, and let's maybe go back to KM, because this is obviously a large enterprise as well. How do you see the next steps in spreading the word beyond IT and citizen developers? And do you see that even as something that's valuable?
Yes. Well, I think driving engagement with the right business stakeholder, it's extremely important, right? So we mentioned a little bit earlier about one of the key initial challenges is really on driving adoption. But at the same time, I think getting the key leaders buy-in into this whole automation journey, it's really important as well, right? Because a lot of times, and like, again, just sharing from experience in driving RPA adoptions, automation adoption in many of the organizations, to the key decision makers in an organization, is always about So what's the ROI, or what's the return in investing in this technology and all that, right? So I think that part of the engagement, it's also really important, right? Sometimes you might not have immediate value that you can see on a piece of paper, that okay, this is like the number of typical mindset for a lot of the business leaders really on that, like, okay, how many man days can I save by automating this task and all that, right? But I think we need to transcend a little bit into, how can I also transform the existing resources that I have within the organizations to do more value add activity and all that.
Yeah. Would you say in that sense that our automation, RPA in general, is kind of like an enabler of digital transformation and getting a different mindset?
Yes, I'm a strong believer of that, because sometimes I think when an organizations are being too bogged down with like mundane, repetitive tasks, to a certain extent, that is where that it affects on the productivity and also efficiency of the workforce of the organizations, right? And when we use automations to fundamentally alleviate some of this, then that is where that it gives that room for the organizations to really transform as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. I think it's a great way in which you can not just kind of preach around digital transformation, but also to kind of show people a very tangible and really useful use case. Speaking about that citizen developer, I saw our first question come in from one of our users, and it's kind of in line with the discussion that we're having now. So if it's okay with everyone, I'm gonna project it on the screen right now. It's from TS Su Chern Chen, and specifically addressed at Michael. And he's saying, "Hi, Michael, it's good to hear from you that those undergraduates love to explore RPA technology. May I know, how do you incorporate RPA learnings into academic courses and become a relevant subject, especially for those who are from a non-technical background, like finance and accounting?" And I think that's why I kind of want to bring up this question right now, because it basically ties into our discussion around citizen developers and showcasing the benefits of automation to non-technical people. So look forward to hearing your thoughts, Michael.
Okay. Hi. Thanks for the question. I am from Nanyang Business School, and we do have RPA content for one of our accounting module, so that I can share with you some of my experience. So this is a 13 weeks program for undergraduate, and two of the days out of 13 was dedicated to RPA. When we actually for this 2 days, we actually get the students to do some hands-on. Basically, we handhold them to do some programming. Of course, majority of them complain is tough, and but a small group of them actually likes it very much, right? So the things we do for them, we get them to do is to do simple things like copy data from Excel file and then entering them into SAP. So and then the other exercise was to read invoice data from PDF files and then enter into SAP. So the idea of all these exercises is to let them have a first-hand experience on how data can be, how some of these work, accounting work can be automated, right? It's not just us lecturers talking and in front of them and showing them the cases, right? It's for them to really experience and believe that this thing is actually happening. And the position we have is actually more of an awareness. We don't expect these students who eventually becomes accountant to actually do a write programs for the robots. Right? So we are pitching at a level where we are telling them, some of your jobs are supposed to be automated, and when you go out to work, if the job is not automated, be aware that you shouldn't be doing this, right? Something is wrong with the company. and you should be asking for automation, right? And then you should be doing something higher value. Right? There is another position that we could be taking soon, is for them to become citizen developer.
Yeah.
So that's in the pipeline, but we haven't gotten there yet. Right. I hope that answers your question.
So if you compare those two, where do you see the divide between I would say an awareness program and more of a citizen developer? What's the difference in perspective from your opinion?
So I believe citizen developers do go way beyond just low code. I have seen citizen developers doing writing, creating RPA bots, right? And they being not from technology background, so they are not aware of some of the issues that they may occur with a solution, including a RPA bot, right? So they after they design the whole department, everybody was trying to become citizen developer, and everybody is they say, even the hello world code, I'm having problem. I said, I told them as a consultant, I was playing the role of a consultant. Then I was telling them that you shouldn't, we value specialization, right? Now what's happening with this department is everybody's trying to be a programmer. Yeah, that shouldn't be the way. I say, see, if you have a common task that you need to automate throughout the department, you maybe every department should have just one citizen developer. And then this citizen developer will be trained and will automate the task for the department. And this citizen developer will need to understand all the software issues, including testing and including accountability. And when we do testing, we do boundary testing, we do volume testing, we do load testing, and we need to account for situations where the robot fails. And being not having any software development experience at all, they are not aware of these issues.
So if I summarize what you're saying a little bit, is that a citizen developer should also know a little bit more around the software aspects and the coding practices behind it. And this is a very interesting take.
Yeah.
And let me go back to Syed for a second, because you kind of brought up the discussion around growing awareness, especially within the non-technical roles. Final question around citizen developers before I move to my next topic is, in your opinion, should every organization have awareness sessions and citizen developer programs to thrive this?
Yeah, definitely. I'll give you a good example. So we trained a manufacturing organization in Malaysia. So it was 6 months of training, which includes 6 months of contract, 3-month training, and 3 months of support. So it's a citizen developer training. We trained them on a platform, which is a leading platform. They got trained and they started automating things. So right, the low code, no code, or the citizen development platforms are limited. They don't have the full possibilities of an automation. Now, after 2 months, 3 months, when they started developing, when they started pushing code to production, the queries that we got, the answer from our end is, this is the limitation of the tool. You cannot automate this. You cannot go beyond this. So we have to take back those feedbacks and tell the OEM saying, hey, look, the teams, the citizen developers are trying to go beyond what your tool can do. So the awareness and the citizen developership program, which we started off thinking, okay, they play within the rules. No, they're actually not. The business users are trying to go beyond what a tool can do. So this is a good testimonial to see how much awareness or citizen developer adoption can bring value out.
Very interesting, and I fully agree that by setting it up enterprise-wide, ultimately you're going to set up much more awareness in that same program. Good. Thanks everyone for sharing their perspective on I think what's a very important topic. The next main thing that I wanted to kind of dive a little bit deeper is in that human-robot collaboration and basically the determination of the future of work. one of the critical aspects is leadership. And I think that KM also already started the discussion a little bit around we need to set up change management and making sure that we adjust or change organization accordingly. So I'd like to go back to you for a second as a leader who has been involved in these programs in multiple organizations. What are the key things to start with? Because it's a very complex task. I get asked that question a lot. What is the starting point? So how did you approach that?
So I'm just going to relate back to like some of the engagement that we are doing across the ADA23 group, really, right? And this goes into like engagement in every layer of the organizations, really. You know, we start off with having engagement sessions with, let's say, like head of a department or business department, right, to shows the value of automation, some of the tasks within their team and all that, right? And subsequently then, you know, gathering potential use cases from them, going through the assessment, and in that manner, you know, educating really the citizens within an organization, really, that, you know, the whole concept of automations and all that, right? We are also actually doing engagement at leadership level, you know, really driving into, you know, the positive impact that all this type of automation can do, can achieve and all that. You know, we have quarterly review with all the regional leaders within the region to really showcase, you know, these are all the use cases that we have gathered in like the 7 countries that we have in Asia, for example, right? And what are the demand, you know, giving different dimensions, slice and dice in terms of like area of opportunity really on automations and all that. And that is where that I think it drives into another conversations where the business leader will start to realize the benefits that it brings to the team. And this would really means that, you know, it's not every time about adding resources into an organizations, but really again transforming the organizations into like having the people that you have to do more value add activities and tasks, and leave the more repetitive and mundane tasks for you know, bots to actually perform those. I think those different layer of engagement is really important.
Yeah, would you say it's if I follow up a little bit on your answer, is it stakeholder management in that sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, good. When we had the pre talk, I also heard from Michael that you're doing research in the leadership aspect. So I know you haven't published your paper yet, but maybe could you already share kind of some of your insights and things that you think should be part of a leadership program when it comes towards automation?
Okay, so the automation approach can be two pronged, right? Like just like any of our software projects, it can be top down or it can be bottom up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's top down approach, we will see things being done very quickly, but we will see employee resistance, right? In terms of the usual automation issues. This robot is going to take over my job, right? And yeah, for bottom up, we get better ideas,
Mm-hmm.
but we may not get a management support. Right? So yeah, you want something from the ground, but you know, we don't have budget, or I don't think this is important. So each has its pros and cons. And again, we see in automation, we see something a new position, actually, someone who sits between business and IT. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression of automation projects starting from the IT end, especially KM, maybe you can share some experience on this. If we are from IT side, if we are going to lead the automation effort, we will have to do some selling to the business, right? So yeah, and this takes time, and there's always the question of budget and all this. Of course, IT is in the best position to in the implementation and the operation management side of things. Yeah, and however, IT generally, especially if you are not revenue generating, or you're not in a position of being responsible for the main business KPI, you are generally holding lesser power. Your voice will be softer in that aspect of things, right? So when business needs you, they will call you. If they don't need you, then you don't get a say. That's yeah. It all comes back to business value, which is very natural. Yeah. So and I think everybody agrees that automation does has its value, no matter what industry you're in. And perhaps it's time that we need someone who sits between business and IT. And there are in the research leaders like CIO.com already mooting of this idea of chief automation officer. Yeah, and the chief automation officer can take three roles. Can be in three positions. One is sitting side by side with CIO, reporting to CEO, or it can be reporting to CIO, or even some suggested that the chief automation officer has the same power as CEO.
Oh wow, that's a different one, a different perspective. Yeah.
That's wow. Yeah. So and I see benefits of being a middle person, be it a C-suite or not, right? So if this person has got a direct access to the management and understand a bit more business and understand a bit of automation issues, yeah, not just IT, but automation issues, right? So and the person will add some value. Yeah, I'll just highlight one of the automation issue. Different from our traditional IT system is like, because automation is always talking to different systems, right? And one of the issue we always need to look out for is, what if the system we're talking to is down? Suppose we need to talk to SAP and SAP is down. And traditionally, we don't care, right? Our system is our system. Other people went down, that's their business, right? So automation officer or a RPA leader of some sort will be very useful in organization. Of course, it has to be a large one to justify this position.
Absolutely. Very good. Thanks so much for sharing your perspective. I think putting it at the same decision maker as the CEO is would still, for a lot of organizations, be a bit of a stretch. But we'll see how that will develop. Good. Before I move towards my next topic, I saw another question coming in on the chat. So this question is addressed at KM, and the question is, I'm totally agree with Kim about the people engagement. However, I believe there are some key challenges in people enablement, especially around the adoption continues as business units with self-service automation in terms of discovery and development, lacking use cases from the business units, probably due to lack of understanding, as well as the lack of understanding of citizen developers to perform the automation. Can you share some insights or experience that you faced, as well as your actions to mitigate things? Interesting question with a lot of different perspective. KM, how would you address this?
Well, thank you for the question, first of all, right? And I think to a certain extent, it's touched a little bit by Michael, and I mentioned a little bit about different level of engagement that is required, right? Which then goes back to what Michael mentioned, right? It looks into the bottoms up and the tops down approach, right? So a lot of time, what we always do is we try to do a bottoms-up approach in at least after we've done the engagement at the departmental level, right? To do a pilot use case for them. Okay, what we do then after that on a quarterly basis is bring it into the regional leaders level, the business leaders, and all that to actually showcase all this automation, right? And to a certain extent, most of the time, that will then drive the tops-down approach, right? To say that, hey guys, this is really bringing benefits to the organizations and all that. Let's explore more opportunity and whatnot. So over here in ADECO, in fact, we have an engagement model that what we call from a demand management standpoint, looking into the proactive path and also the reactive path, right? So reactive path, it goes back into all the requests from business, right, on area of opportunity to do automation on which we have an assessment template internally to fulfill, and some of the criteria calculated will help us to sort of like define whether it's a good automation use case and all not. But the other part of it is really also on the proactive path, right? So that is where we are embarking into a little bit of the journey of like process and task mining, right? I think Syed touches a little bit about all that, right? So to me, that is really more on identifying the bottlenecks in certain business processes and whatnot, and proactively trying to resolve that if possible through automation.
Good. I think that's a very excellent response to address how to deal with some of those challenges, because that's not an easy feat, to say the least. Good. I see another question coming in, and then I'm going to switch towards my last topic, which is obviously the topic everyone is talking about, AI and automation. So I'll come back towards that in a second. But maybe next question for Syed. It's not directed at anyone specifically. So I'd like you to answer the following question. It's what would be your best tip or first step to get your company on board to invest in automation? And I think that's a very interesting question as well.
Yeah, of course, it's kind of an open-ended question. So when you want to invest in any of the automation things, so your first investment is your people and their time. So have a right set of people chosen for it. The people who in your organization who are pretty open-minded for learning new technologies, are the early adopters, or your quick masters. So choose the right team first. I have seen a couple of organizations failing because their early set of automation adopters are, I'm sorry to make this statement, they're from pretty 20, 25 years of automation background. So for them, the moment I say, how does the system work? I tell them, you have to install this agent in your system. They get panicked. What does this agent do? Is this agent watching me? So I'm not against it, but there are some early 20, 25 years of people who actually embarked on this technology. So your first set of a strategy in while investing in automation is right people from your organization who have a mindset to learn and grow. And investment also talks about the money flowing in. So do not buy too many licenses. Do not start it, let's let's buy the entire factory at one go. No, do not do it. For every of your automation platform or a vendor, they have a trial version, which is not a community version. So there is a version which is between enterprise and between community. They call it as trial. They call it as non-prod environments. Pick them up, do a good negotiation. They give those licenses mostly for free of cost. I've got a chance to do it for a lot of vendors in North America, where UiPath and Automation Anywhere were pretty generous to give them almost 16 to 12 licenses for 6 months. So what happened here? You got the right people and you haven't invested anything there. So now it is easy for you. You're not under a pressure of showing, just like how KM said, every leader asks for ROI. So automation is not for ROI. Something which automation only can do, which none other technology can do, is giving you the most valuable thing on the earth, time. It makes things faster. So that's how I suggest them. And choose a good partner, of course.
That's always important. So Syed, in order to, while you were talking, there was a question coming in, which I'm going to project on the screen, which was specifically addressed to you. So maybe if you can quickly address that, and then we will go towards some of the final parts, because we're already going through time very, very quickly. Question is, being ahead of delivery, do you think that those companies who are using proprietary platforms as a solution to explore other alternative solutions? If yes, what alternative solutions would you recommend?
I think the only thing right now, the markets, whenever we go to any new customer, I'm sorry, the hype is real, but I don't know. Everybody talks about Chat GPT now, which is in term a conversational AI kind of an approach. So give you a scenario where a business user is asking, okay, you automate it. I don't care what runs behind, whatever the information I need. Even if to start a bot, I only want to talk to Microsoft Teams. I open Teams, say do this, and the bot has to run behind and fetch me that data. So they are expecting something like a conversational AI approach for all the RPA vendors. And luckily, the RPA or the automation solution providers can quickly do this stitching between conversational AI and the automation processes. This is something which I would recommend, other than having their own proprietary platform, connect it with the conversational AI kind of that could be a chatbot. So a lot of chatbots now, the vendors are open there. Even Cognate Bots has something called Win.ai, so which is a chatbot connection between automation platform and to the end users. So what is happening is this is making the business users go really funny or kind of quick adaptive to RPA. So they don't see the big picture. They only they have the habit of talking to chatbot, starting the process from it, stopping it, viewing it from the chatbot. So this made their life simpler.
Good. Thanks so much. And I think that's an excellent response. I know that things are going very, very fast, but it's already time that I will go towards my final question for the panel today. And I'd like to kind of go in order. If I were to have a big glass bowl, and again, the theme of this panel is a human-robot collaboration in the future of work. If I have this big glass bowl and I could look into 2030, so let's say close to 7 years from now, what would an organization look like and how would we be using automation? Maybe let's start with KM for the final thoughts.
Sure. Well, if I look into this glass bowl and if I can use this analogy, right, I would see a future collaborative workspace where you can sort of like compare or consider a bot to be sort of like a blue collar worker for desk work. So they are the people that you replace, for example, like the data entry clerk or whatnot, right? And subsequently, then the human is really, again, I've mentioned this many times during these sessions, focusing more on value add tasks or activities. But beyond that, right, it's also on certain new role or positions that potentially embrace, adoption of all this new technology, adoption of like automation. I think Syed mentioned a little bit about generative AI and all that, right? So I think that will actually give the organizations again to transform and embrace, and how do you want to change your organizational perspective to actually embrace this type of technology?
Thank you so much. I think that's a very interesting perspective to look at in the next few years. Let's move then to Michael. What's your glass bowl going to look like? I think on mute for a second.
Sorry, Jen. Can you repeat the question? I was replying.
Yeah. So if we were to look into a glass bowl 7 years from now, the year is 2030, what would human-robot collaboration look like?
Wow. I would see. Actually, we don't need to wait until 2030. It's actually happening now. My personal productivity due to RPA and ChatGPT is already at 1.5 times what it was previously. And for those who embrace technology, whether be it a person, be it employee, or be it a company, they are more likely to thrive. And though for those who do not, they are likely to be left behind. And I will see a huge divide into tech savvy people and the non-tech savvy ones. And I think we are not left with a choice, and that we have to go tech savvy, yeah, or you risk being left behind. And I'd like to share with everyone here as well, and is that if your kids are going to university, and you would know that nowadays the computer science degrees are, you need all straight A's to get in. Yeah, and that tells you something, right? So
Yeah.
That's my view. Is a tech world now.
Absolutely. I think you're fully correct in that. Thanks so much for sharing your perspective, Michael. And then final glass bowl question is for Syed. What is the world going to look like in you?
Yeah. And I'll give you a scenario. 20 years back, my uncle was traveling to a different city, which is almost, how would I say, 300 miles. Once in every week, I used to ask him, Uncle, what were you traveling for? So he used to say that the government organization, he was a government servant at the time, they have introduced something called computers. They are coming into our organization. They'll be sitting with us and working. We will be working on computers. So he used to travel and get trained by some of the experts. And he's kind of a little scared about, will it take away the jobs? Will the computers make people jobless? Now we have seen what computers are doing. They have transformed the way we're working. So it's going to be the similar for human and robot collaboration after 7 years or 10 years down the line. What computers have transformed our lives? What is the number of jobs that have actually created? The software robots, the human robot collaboration going to do exactly the same. It's going to help. It's going to increase the volume of the opportunities. And the Gartner said, but as on 2019, there is the human robot collaboration or a digital assistant on our work is only 2%. In 2023, it has grown to 24%. On a Gartner's website, you go and just search for digital assistant adoption. It is 24% now. And by 2025, the Gartner prediction is to grow till 45 to 50%. So we have the prediction numbers. So it's going to be a fantastic time ahead. And we are very glad that we're discussing this now. And possibly the next generation will find it somewhere on YouTube and be looking at it after 10, 15 years.
Well, I think that those are some very good closing work. It's a fantastic time to move into. And I hope that this conference and this panel discussion basically inspires everyone to become a part of that major journey. Yeah. With that, I do really need to start closing the session because we already have a lot of people waiting in terms of the next speakers. So before we say goodbye, I would like to thank our panelists here, Michael Tan, KM, and Syed, for sharing their contribution. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you, and especially during the panel discussions. There's always so much insights that we can talk about for many, many more hours. So thanks for making the time to be with us today.
Thanks, Jerry, for the invitation.
Thank you so much, guys. So on our next hour, which already starts in 6 minutes, we're going to listen to two other very, very interesting speakers. On track one, which will be my track, we're going to listen to Samia, who is a global automation delivery lead at IBM, and he is going to talk about the humanization of automation. In the second track, just like this morning, we have our next workshop starting. And just for everyone who just tuned in, the workshops are more roll up your sleeve, follow along, more technical. So Mukesh, who has been a 3 times UiPath MVP, so not at the same level as Syed yet, but he is going to talk about RPA with generative AI, topic that we've also just covered. So thanks everyone for being in the session today. And in 5 minutes from now, we're going to start our next sessions. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Take care. Enjoy your day.